A lot of people in the industry know me as Solar Fred, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Intersolar's Solar Lab. And we are here to talk about how solar is going to get from the early adopter stage to the early majority stage. And we have a terrific panel here. The full bios are here. Panelists there. To my left is Bernadette Del Chiaro, Jeff Wolfe, Danny Kennedy, and Barry Simmons. For those of you who aren't aware or familiar with the Crossing the Chasm book that this panel is based on, I'm going to give you a very brief summary. So there is this dynamic of when a new technology gets adopted and goes into the mainstream, you first have the early adopters and what they call the innovators. And these are the people that just want it no matter what. There's bugs, it's okay, that's great. They're willing to be the first people on the block, they're willing to pay more money for it. They just like things that are cool and that's going to go forward. And then we get into the early majority stage. And this is the toughest part to get into, and that's why there's this chasm. There's a difficult point of spreading the word about this new technology to the early majority who are all pragmatists. And they are pragmatists from every level. They want other people to be behaving the way they want to be. And from a technology perspective, they want to know that it's working and it's working great. From a solar advocacy perspective, they want to know that the policies are stable. Again, being very, very pragmatic. So things that happened with Nevada recently don't happen, where everybody's net metering is pulled away very suddenly. From an economic stage, again, they want things to be the lowest cost. I don't know if any of you in the residential space, actually, I know some of you in the residential space, but I'm sure you get sometimes of, well, we'll wait till it gets a little less expensive, or we'll wait until the technology gets better. And the pragmatists want, from a marketing perspective, they really don't want to be the first on the block. They don't want to be the second on the block. They don't even want to be the third on the block. They want to see like 6 people on the block, and that makes them feel like, oh, everybody's doing solar, why not? So these panelists here are all representing different perspectives from that technology perspective, from the marketing perspective, and from the economics perspective and the policy perspective. And we're going to discuss the different ways that we think solar can cross the chasm. And I will tell you in advance that there is a debate among us about whether solar is already crossed the chasm. I think for our first question, we're going to take just to talk about the utility sector. And I think there is a consensus that we already are heading into the mainstream, if not already in there, because of the price of solar and the adoption that is happening right now in the utility scale across the nation. It is becoming more accepted and seems more reliable. Jeff, you had some a stat from ERCOT, I believe.
Yeah, so as a long-established Texan of 9 months now, first of all, I need to say that being a public company, statements are mine, not the company's. So ERCOT came out with a study, and ERCOT's control the grid in Texas. Again, the study is saying that this will be 5 gigawatts of coal closing in the next 5 to 10 years, due primarily to EPA age rule enforcement and such. And what will replace that power? And the study showed that under pretty much any price scenario for natural gas and other fuels, almost all of that power was replaced with 14 to 27 gigawatts of solar. So this is an ERCOT study, not a green tech media study, say. That is saying solar is the mainstream fuel generation technology of choice under any price scenario.
And that's for utility and large scale. And we see solar heading to $1 per watt installed, meeting that goal. I think before 2020, which is the NREL goal for it. So it seems that it's now just a matter of time and utilities making their plans and buying the land and actually doing it. Now there is going to be some other technology innovations, and that goes to my, well, does anybody else have anything to say opposite of that? Does anybody feel like we still have a long way before utilities are fully embracing solar and in the early majority of the utility sector?
I don't want to counter it. I completely agree. I just want to add a little bit of a flourish to that and to make a point that it was the original kind of beginning growth of the rooftop solar industry, of individual consumers being able to visually see solar in the communities and the neighborhoods and opt into it, or see their neighbors starting to opt into it, that helped kind of catapult large-scale solar into this position of kind of mainstream adoption. Sort of rooftop solar being the pioneering technology really over the past 30 to 40 years, starting with solar hot water, I think created the kind of political will to create the policies that allow the economies to bring its price down, create jump over the chasm. So I just think that's a point that is often lost, and it's always becomes economics and we're kind of debate between the two, and I think the two go hand in glove and have helped each other out quite a bit. But
Danny, anything to add to that?
I would just like to add that you look at the new generating capacity that's going in around the country, and it's almost all solar. So we're like past the early majority, where we're kind of mainstream utilities. That's their generation source of choice.
Right, for the new generation that are going in, we still have a lot of alternative, I should say traditional energy sources that are still online and still need to be retired. I know, well, they will be the alternative energy source, I think, very, very shortly. We're getting there on the utilities now. Danny is having technology.
I'm having technology.
There we go.
We're sort of confusing the crossing the chasm thing with who the consumer is, and if the consumer is utility off-takers, I think what we're saying is we have lost that well into like the majority of there are only laggards left to buy utility scale solar as customers when there are new additions. Your point is simply that the new addition market is only so big in a given year, and there's still a whole lot of stock in the system, power plants that have yet to run through their life cycle to be retired. That's the next struggle, is how do you displace what is running currently and shut it down. But around the world, this point that Barry made about the US is even more true now, that the cost, the levelized cost of energy that we're seeing in Peru, in Mexico, in Dubai, you name it, mean that they don't really have a choice as a consumer of power plants. They have to go utility scale solar unless there's some mitigating circumstances. It's just cheaper, faster, better, cleaner, all that.
And the other obstacle I see is, I think purely from a demographic perspective, I still think that there is a lack of space of education for utility managers who still are used to the old power plants and that 24/7 generation. And so it's kind of a begrudging, now makes economic sense, but will we still be able to provide power for our customers 24/7 if we add this much solar to replace a power plant? So I think there's still a skepticism, but openness, and that has been led by the lower price of the continuing decline in cost of solar. So there's a lot of old dogs that need to be taught some new tricks, and I think they are being taught. I think there's still a challenge. Salespeople with marketers have to really reach out and not be so adversarial, not forcing down their throats, but educational. So I think that somebody else has to say.
I have a quick question, actually, John or something. Do you think that utility scale would have crossed the chasm if you see the dynamics you're reporting without the public policy driving the utility decision makers to choose clean, and then amongst the clean, so that's not.
Well, I think there's actually multiple things that the district generation has done that have helped promote and create this kind of market. It's the public policy drivers that have done. It's the social awareness and the drive people want in the energy. So if you've got a plant going for a permit, one of the big problems is getting a utility scale plant for a permit. And if nobody who is in the area likes solar, then you fundamentally can't get a permit. Whereas if you have a whole lot of residential solar owners in that area, you now have a built-in constituency who also will help promote the utility scale solar. So the amount of industry synergy that has in the DG world that has helped the utility scale get to that scale is huge. Solar really needs all sides of solar in order to succeed.
But I think I'm asking you something or two on this. To your question of, you still have home guard running a lot of utilities and making a lot of decisions, and many of them aren't actually that comfortable with the intermittency of renewables. And I'm just wondering, would we be seeing this depth and penetration of solar on the utility scale if were it not for an RPS in that state, the power plant, acknowledgement that carbon emissions coming out of the pipe? Right. So I guess I just wonder, crossing the chasm, there's maybe a question about the whole hypothesis is, does crossing the chasm, if your consumer in this case is the utility decision maker, does it, in order to say I'm across that chasm, do it on your own mission without the stick poking you there?
I actually disagree that Texas, for example, is not it's not pull out, but there's no driver other than price pushing solar in.
Can I explain why that's the case? Because we're treating utilities like consumers, which has sort of confusion up front. In Texas, they act a little bit more like consumers because it's more competitive in Texas. In places where they are regulated monopolies, which is most of America, they do not, and therefore they need policy that sticks into it. I just think we're stretching crossing the chasm to a utility consumer mindset, which is not like the consumer that was described.
Right, well, but
Yeah, we can move beyond it.
we can move beyond it, but
I'll
yeah.
ask you a question.
And to your point, I'll just say that I think that price is really driving it now, but it started with the ITC, which is a policy, and now that 30%. That I think it's going to be a lot slower.
And the irony is that the consumer interest and public policy interest help the utilities almost to a certain degree co-opt our message of clean solar, and now they want to be the ones to do it, as opposed to allowing everybody to take advantage of that. So that's kind of a little bit of a painful irony we've got to deal with.
Okay, so moving on. Let's talk about this from the technology perspective. The pragmatists who want things to work and they don't want to think about it, they want to keep it simple. Jeff, from a technology perspective, in the purely residential distributed energy and the C&I commercial and industrial sectors behind the meters, what does technology need to do in order to make the pragmatists feel like it's time to solar?
Well, American consumers will tell you that they like and value a lot of things, but they mostly like and value cheap things. They like low cost. And so anything we can do that drives the cost of solar down is helpful. It's not exclusive to that, but all the innovations need practice. And then we were just talking about module pricing earlier. Module pricing is sliced again next year. And so the idea that we're going to get the $2 a watt installed cost probably meeting the DOE timeline for that is real. And then that will be priced. So, and as you get more price, it's the technology and revenue faster than business. And you put in the sales cycle. Then you get more and more adoption, which then drives more cultural adoption.
So, but specifically, do you feel like it's integration technology that will also, or is it going to be, we're going to have a storage question later, so that's an obvious part of that. But beyond that, in terms of solar PV itself, does anyone feel like there's some technology part of the pie?
Well, talking about technology, I wish we had good technology. But I just think back over the past 15 years or so I've been doing installations. Almost everything's worked. Jeff's point is it's a price issue. So if the technology reduces the installation cost, it's great. But products that the mainstream installers have been installing for a long time, it works. It's just about every single module has worked. Almost never inverters work. The glitches here and there with monitoring and some electronic stuff. The technology is stable, and it's really been effective in driving down that cost. Except for the wind.
So there is one thing. We are at the end of this in very different places. We are work in places that don't have the internet. And the technology one of the stories that we're hoping that it is smart home technology where I can turn things on, turn things off based upon my solar generation load. And so the Internet of Things that now has become a reality with the cheaper devices, better communication ability, how to tied to solar generation, tied to consumption. That's been a driver to broaden the economic viability.
Anybody else have that? Yeah, I totally agree with everybody. I know manufacturers have not loved years, but the stock, as much consistent evolution of their technology, we can still, paper the entire world with solar with the current technology that we have now. Generation, there's going to be one. Only up to 40% in terms of efficiency per panel. Is that the correct number? In terms of capturing light on a PV panel?
It's like 24% for a single junction, and you might be able to get 30% with multi-junction.
Right.
And then beyond that, it's concentrated because that requires moving parts and stuff on the
Right. So, I mean, if we said to consumers right now, it ain't going to get much better than this, and that's, I advise. Wait, next step you're not going to get, you're going to lose more money by not going solar now, taking advantage of, for example, the ITC that's going to expire to keep waiting. The gas cost will come down, and you'll have lost all of those savings for 2 years that you wait.
What the solar technology is really want. They don't buy technology. They buy price, they buy brand, they buy desire. Okay? And so, when we sell, I never sell based upon, this technology is good enough for you. I sell it based upon net metering is going to go away. It's the best economic deal you're ever going to get today. Don't wait. And I've unfortunately been true in times in terms of economics get worse and worse and worse as we drive prices down and down.
That's actually a chasm issue. Because at the beginning, with the innovators, we had to sell them on the cool technology. So for some customers, we've crossed that chasm, and they don't care about the technology. They want price, reliability.
The other thing that customers buy, the other thing that customers buy is what their neighbors bought. So I think part of this is about building enough social proof that the thing works, that it saves money, no matter what the salesperson told them. They're not going to believe that until someone they trust tells them to. So
We're going to get into a marketing question. But Bernadette, let's talk about it from policy perspective. We've seen a lot of instability lately with net metering policies. One of the big win here in California, but obviously we've lost a huge loss in Nevada. We've lost a huge loss in part of Arizona. Hawaii is also seeing a decline in installation. Tell me about what will it take to have, what stable policies do we need to attract the practices to believe that it's safe to sign a solar contract?
Cloning Bernadette. We have to clone Bernadette for every state. and load solar. Hugely valuable.
Here's the biotechnology question. We have the next time. Please wait for that.
I mean, I haven't read the book, so this actually to me gets at why I don't feel like we have a chasm, because I think, what's gotten us out of the early adopters are people making an economic decision. They're not necessarily, a lot of them, they're buying solar because the clean part of it, the solar technology part is kind of a cool addition. But, something you said the other day, John, is they're buying reduced energy bill. They're buying a reduced energy bill. They're buying better control of their energy future, their costs of their home. And if the underlying policy that basically will change the very structure of the economic payback, if that changes, if that goes away, I don't think it will solve those customers. So I sort of question how much we've actually, come close to the chasm, given that there's a lot of fragility in our policies. And I would just say that there are 40 municipal utilities in California that cover 20% of the market. We have our own Nevadas right here in the state. Turlock Irrigation District, not a small utility. They basically adopted an outline tariff and we saw the market drop 95%. Just at until 2015. We have Palo Alto, not exactly thought of as a backwards, non-environmentally minded city. Just proposed probably the worst net metering tariff we've ever seen. We luckily got the city council to put that on hold and engage with us. But when we're having Palo Alto and Turlock and now Imperial basically propose things that look a lot like Nevada and Arizona, and people aren't out in the streets. I mean, it's just gonna happen unless the industry steps in at this moment in time and fights back. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't have a constituency to mobilize, but I think if a regulator or a kind of a government entity tried to take people's cell phones away, right? I mean, there would be mass chaos, and we don't quite have that yet. So I don't feel like we have crossed the chasm yet.
So, I think that a little contrary, and I think we have to cross the chasm. And then I think that the PUC created an earthquake and created a new chasm. And I think that's a problem, that's a threat to the industry, because that you start having more and more places, as you said. So the problem is that people in the U.S. don't think about energy. Work for an energy company, they think about energy 9 minutes a year. And if you try and make them think about that more, you fail because it's part of cultural change. But when we stop, I think we have to cross the chasm when we stop selling solar and we sell energy and services. When we sell energy and services to people, they want energy, they want services. They need energy in their home. They don't need solar in their home. They're never going to need solar.
I agree to the level of saying
I
that
don't want it.
I love
You don't want it.
I love making speeches. Here's the nuance that I would say. I would say that solar has great brand in general. And so if you're just selling, you want to be a blend, you're just being a blend utility, and you're not being right now doing the right thing for the environment, for children, for climate change, and all that. You're just selling another form of energy, and it's no different. It's just cheaper, and obviously economics there. But that brand of solar is making people care about that. I mean, you're right in the sense that once it's mainstream, people will go, oh, it's so common. Yeah, it's just energy. Not to promote your company, so I agree to that level. But I think we're way too early for solar companies to be calling themselves just another energy company right now. And when I hear, the solar companies and other maybe for utilities, that's the right messaging for that sector. For the residential sector, keep solar in. It's a great brand, and so far, Solyndra hasn't killed it, Sun Edison hasn't killed it. It's going to stay alive and be a positive brand for a long time. Now, on Danny.
Because I think, we do sell it as a service now. That was where I think the US took off. An inflection point, third-party ownership, leasing, now loans, allowing us to have the energy conversation. I think the sales craft is about selling energy and making it simple and easy to substitute the existing energy or electricity service, but also maintain the differentiation in that it's solar and good and brings about legacy and other co-benefits. And it's not too hard with an average American consumer to do first service replacement for less, second co-benefits. I think one of the problems with this conversation again is about how we're trying to do very big groups of things, and marketing's all about micro-targeting. And Nevada, kind of with Jeff, my joke was going to be that the powers that be in Nevada pushed us back into the chasm after we crossed it. And that's happening in other places because this is still politically created markets. But where we have sufficient social proof and density and strength, we're just moving on and on and on. And we're at 1% growing every 22 months to doubling every 22 months. We're there. We're more than halfway there now. I know that sounds irrational, but on an exponential curve, when you're at 1, you go to 2, you go to 4, you go to 8, 16, 32, 64, you're done. That's 7 doubling. So in the period we've been doing this forward, we will do it all in certain markets where we don't lose the politics.
In certain markets, yeah. Barry and Dan?
It's just a very localized market. And so there's a lot of different chasms. We crossed a chasm in the San Jose area, a year or two ago. And so now we're selling to people who are putting in their second and third and fourth system in a neighborhood. So they know it works. They see their neighbors with solar. There's no questions about its reliability, and they're buying it. Coming back to one of the key decision-making points, there's a study called Seeds. I think it was done by NREL. And they very clearly came out and said that the most important factor in people deciding whether or not they're getting solar is whether it was cost effective. It was coming down to dollars and cents. And that also clearly means that in some places where they've already purchased and crossed the chasm, where they haven't purchased, the economics are very good.
So let's dive into that next question about that economics. And so I think we can all agree that it was a revolution to have PPAs. That enabled a lot of solar to come on board. So that was great creative finance, and we also had them combined with great policies, made the economics better. And we also had the ITC come in line for residential and utility in 2000. But of course, it took a market crash to make that happen. That's a big story. If I'm a pragmatist and I still haven't gotten solar, and basically we had the longevity model and many other models that basically gave you solar for free and you'd still save 10 to 15, 20% on your energy, and you still haven't gone. What's wrong with you? I mean, what is making the pragmatist not be excited about the financial payback and case for solar right now? And the same would be said for, we discussed this previously, the C&I market I know has some issues there, so we can talk about that. But I'll shut up there and let you actually answer the question.
So if you're a pragmatist and you haven't decided yet, you're not the early majority, you're the late majority, you're in the wrong part of the curve.
No, I mean, according to the book, the early majority are part of the pragmatists. They do want pragmatists. So that's the laggards, and there's many parts of the mainstream.
Right. So I would say that the pragmatists in markets that already have a good seeding of solar, where they can see it in their neighborhood, and where the economics are still good, those are the ones we're marketing to. And that's how, the good thing about this book and this whole discussion is it gives you some direction on how you should change your marketing tactics as the industry evolves. And my little installation company in San Jose, we're marketing very differently than the way we did 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. we're going to those neighborhoods where there's already solar, which, you know, hey, that's a bad thing. People already purchased solar, but the door-to-door, the pounding on the people who don't have it yet, they have a swimming pool and air conditioning. You kind of almost grab them by the throat. It's going to be that. You grab them by the throat, shake them, and ask them the question we just did for, which is, why haven't you bought solar yet?
Anybody else have anything to add in terms of economics or financing or any other models that get some pragmatists to go for it?
I was just going to say something different, which wasn't trying to put myself in the practice shoes, but rather, I think some of what you're describing is simply an execution issue. It's time. And, you know, we haven't got to all the pragmatists in all the markets because we're a small industry just begun. And, you know, the effective marketing, presenting the value proposition in the right way to the right audience at the right time, for them to consider it and make an easy decision simply in their life, is a hard thing to deliver perfectly, and we're just beginning. So, I mean, I'm not trying to make an excuse for it, but it's not all pull. Like, this is a two-way street, and much of it is push on our part and matching the service we deliver to the needs of the customer in that place.
There's also just a dynamic of, sorry, inertia. Like, the people, you know, they're getting, to your point, somebody's point earlier, they're getting electricity delivered to their home, and you have to do something different in order. It's not like I don't have a cell phone today. I have to look at it. Without it, I don't actually have the need to, you know, communicate as great as I'd like to. The solar
Being on Pokemon Go. You couldn't be on Pokemon Go if you didn't have a cell phone. Right. I'm just saying you couldn't play Pokemon Go if you didn't have a cell phone.
Thank you. Yes,
So
right.
you would go get one.
So, and you know, you go back to like the greatest uptake of the 401k program participation was when you made it an opt-out as opposed to an opt-in. I think with solar, we're still in the opt-in world, and you know, this gets at the importance of mandating solar on new construction, because if you do that, people are going to just happily move into that solar home and be very pleased with it. But it's a we're still in that you got to opt in, and that makes it much more difficult, even if for all reason, you know, there's no good reason not to do it. It's like I have some stupid bundled Comcast and landline at my house still. I hate to admit it, I know. And you know, we thought it was a good deal 5 years ago, and it's a really dumb deal. We're paying too much. We don't use our landline. But when I get home from work, the last thing I want to do is wrangle some Comcast. You know, I just don't want to deal with it. So we keep leading on, and I think there's that dynamic in just the American home across the country.
Tor, I wanted to ask you, Tor, what's the longest commitment you have?
Personally?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've had 17 years of marriage, but no longer.
So you've never entered a 20-year contract?
No, not really.
Forever.
Yeah, forever.
But not even 20 years.
Okay, but
You only told us to go after you.
So the biggest, one of the biggest, not the biggest hurdle in getting somebody to sign up is it's 20 years. Oh my God.
Right. So, but that's a finding. But as I would say that it's still a puzzle to me, because with loan rates being as low as they are right now, and equity getting back into people's homes, it's still a great investment, and yet still people. And this goes. Let's go down to the marketing question. What do we have to say to communicate all of these things to make these practices believe that they're going to save money and care? And caring is the most important part, because I think you said if they do nothing, they're still going to be connected to the grid, and things are going to go normal. If we make them care, and that could be about community solar, making that switch, and it's still a cost effective, then I feel if we have that right mix of natural messaging, they will take the time to actually do it and go through the weekend. You know, what's that formula? Danny knows what it is, and he wants to tell us what it is.
It is whatever the customer needs to hear to make that effort and go solar. Like I'm sorry to be obtuse about it, but there's no magic. You have to get it right for that person in that place. And that's salescraft, marketing. And you don't present to my mother the same value proposition you do to my brother, let alone the guy in Chicago who is driven by entirely different motivations and different reality. So, like, we're looking for a magic formula that says we go from 1 million to 80 million homes. It's work called marketing, sales, and then execution of said sales. And now we're trying to work out why hasn't it happened in 10 years, even though it's on track to happen probably. I mean, the last million took however many years, 20 years. The next million will take 2 years. The next million after that will probably take 6 months. The next million after that will probably take 3 months if we just do the work. And we have to do really smart, hard work.
Going back to the technology question, then I would say that, and related to marketing, and data mining is going to be extremely important in segmentation, so that when you're approaching that person, they've already you have at least some idea of what they care about to create that right message. And so, as much as we have Big Brother in this world right now, if it's used for good, I don't see why it's a bad thing for that part. I want to be, we're running out of time, so I want to go into the next technology question, and that is storage. So I phrased it in specific ways. So basic question. When the price of batteries and storage starts coming down as fast as solar panels have, is that going to just make it a no-brainer and utilities going to start running into the trees? And it will become completely, it'll be a huge funnel of people running to go solar. Because here's my perspective about storage. It's not only will make good economic sense. Right now it doesn't exactly, but when utilities start playing with the rates and everything else by going solar, I think it will make more economic sense. And then when that happens, and storage becomes just such a no-brainer, and America's independent mindedness comes into the marketing play, because we all want to be, a lot of us use that American mindset. I think it really becomes game over, and I think we're stronger as a grid together. But I think a lot of people will be really attracted if they can power their whole house to solar and storage, and it's cost effective. They might actually do it. That's 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line.
No, we actually love it. Now I can go to 50 states. I can go everywhere. I can only go to 18 states for power right now. So, no, we are very strongly aligned at almost everything the solar industry wants. The retail industry. We like open markets. But, I wish you were right. I wish I agree with you. But, I really do. But, just like when solar became economical and saved me money, we didn't have everybody go to solar. When storage becomes economical and saves you money, we're not going to have everybody go to storage because they don't need storage any more than they need solar.
More climate change things we have. They might actually.
That we'd like to market things before that happens. Before that happens more than it already does with 500-year rainstorms in Houston since I moved there. So it's going to take more than just the storage being economic. We need to do the marketing to push the storage out in such a way that, look, I don't want storage, I don't want solar, I want a home that I come home to and has the lights on at the level I want, the music on at the level I want, and a martini delivered at the door. Okay? You do that for me, and if you need a battery, God bless you, put a battery in.
So we need a robotic TV delivering system.
It's called a Roomba.
The Roomba. But it becomes a whole new chasm, right? So 15 years, and now we're just kind of beginning to cross that chasm between the innovators and the early majority. Storage, I looked at the statistics. There's like only 200 or 300 people who got officially connected in California with a battery system. That's like pretty far on the innovator side.
We're definitely on the innovator
So
side.
it's going to take, even when the costs come down and the technology works and the software's there and you can you know what your rates are, and your storage system can dynamically switch between the grid, the batteries, and your car, it's still going to take 15, 20 years.
Except I'll point out, sorry, I just want to point out that Elon Musk is trying to prove every one of us wrong in that sense. I mean, they have how many millions of signups do they have? Now, will they buy it in the long run? I don't know. But at least so many people went and signed up to at least get a quote for it when it is ready. No. Or that, because
We need more Elon
So
Musk.
Sony, who is the biggest, I believe, the biggest implementer of resident lighting systems in the world, has 10,000 installations.
don't disagree that we're all in the early starting stage. I'm saying that when Elon makes it cool for everybody to have a battery and that spreads to other batteries, that spreads up rapidly, and actually does backup storage. We all know that right now, most of them don't are going to get their backup power when the grid goes down. So we're economics,
We also need a business model that works. He's figured out the marketing, but not the business model.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want, maybe I'm taking us off track, so I'm too much of a policy head, but I think this is a theoretical conversation in a vacuum without the dynamics that public policy and politics bring into the marketplace. So, departing low charges, trying to recover stranded costs of the utilities, sort of forced upon us as a society, and now we all have to pay for them. Those are going to really hurt. Even, you can't get out of those charges in some cases. You're not going to be able to. And so I worry that I also think there's a dynamic of the shared renewables concept that might cut against the idea of true behind the meter on-site distributed generation, and that I think there's a real potential for people to just say, well, I'll just get a small share of a community project somewhere, feel good about it, pay a great premium, and just not bother with the hassle of all those wires and things on the roof. I'm starting to see, I think we're starting to see a little bit of that dynamic. And that's not to say that shared renewables and those concepts aren't good, that should be developed to service, portions of the market that can't be serviced through an metering type structure. But I think that the idea that storage is sort of this, kind of panacea solution for us, that's like our savior on the white, horse or whatever, I just think that's unfortunately not going to be the case.
As far as residential is concerned, you haven't even started the Chasm. You can't get anything out of Florida. Highest rated in the country according to NREL, and it's not allowed.
So
That's it.
And I would say that when I remember my train of thought, I will get back to that.
Your brain's as good as mine right now. At least you're not calling me
All right, let's make some bold predictions. Bottom line, that train of thought of mine was still solar surprised me from when I got into the industry in 2008, and I think storage will surprise everybody as well. So that's my prediction for storage. But let's go back to the general premise and let's make our own predictions about, number one, when is solar mainstream? When do we think that solar really is mainstream, and what date is that? So the definition of mainstream for you in terms of C&I, behind the meter, and the date for when that definition will be the case. I think you actually already, or Jeff already kind of mentioned it.
All right.
Sure.
So solar is truly mainstream when it is sold as one of a selection of one of a menu of services you can provide to a customer. And I go to your door, I go to your factory, I go to your plant, or whatever, and I say, okay, here are the things we can do for you. Let me look at your facility, let me look at your house. Here's what we want to do for you. Here's the price. It includes solar, or it doesn't include solar. Here's what we're going to do for you as a service, as a utility, as an energy, as a service provider. And if solar is included in that when it makes sense, and not included when it doesn't make sense, cross the check. And that's going to be 3 to 4 years.
That's only 3 or 4 years. So you're saying
In some markets.
some markets
This is
by
the bulk of the United States of America. So in some markets, it'll get 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
In some markets, probably never get.
What about national? I mean, if it's minimal national? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I do too. Like, you know, Kansas.
Yeah. When is Mississippi going to be mainstream? Have mainstream solar?
Not on my radar.
Safe answer.
Solar was mainstream in 2012 when the money, which is what matters, what you should follow, switched from one side of the balance sheet to the other. Every year since then, more money, and to Barry's point, this year so far, all money, for all intents and purposes, has flown to solar. This is both national and global. It's also the year when Obama was re-elected and Solyndra didn't hurt him, even though that was the effort to stop him, so the political will for this work maintained. And everything else is just going through the process of that. Like, the alternative energy for 3 years, just for the record, has been coal, oil, nukes, and gas. Last year, by the numbers, wind and solar were exactly twice as large by value as coal, oil, nukes, and gas. Don't pay attention to the headlines, pay attention to the dollars. And we're mainstream, they are alternative.
That was utility. I'm talking about.
That's not even mentioning residential, so that too. You're talking about displacing an existing energy stock, and yes, that takes time. But my point is, we have crossed the chasm in terms of the electricity source of choice in all markets by the decision of the people that finance them and the political people that set the markets, notwithstanding that Louisiana and Mississippi are backwards. I'm not sure how important they are, bluntly, in this equation. Where it matters, I mean, I'm not trying to be too dismissive here of people that I care about, but where it matters is where energy systems are being added, not destroyed, and that is not Mississippi. That is Asia and a few states in America. Most states in America are seeing demand destruction. So, like, we won this a long time ago. The dead man walking, that is the oil industry, is starting to realize that. The coal industry didn't realize it, and they died. In this country, they went from $100 billion to less than $1 billion worth of value in 10 years. And Peabody is now bankrupt. So I just think it's sort of this fairly weird, wide-ranging conversation. We should acknowledge our success and we should build on it and just see it through. And that doesn't mean it's easy. That doesn't mean there won't be a fight. That doesn't mean there's not a struggle on policy and there's not a shit ton of work to be done as solar companies. And you have to hone your message and marketing and sales craft. That's our jobs.
Hard act to follow, and maybe it doesn't flow from what Danny just said, but I was thinking, solar will be mainstream, DG solar, when the type of person you need running the industry association is really boring and just has to maintain stasis. Keep the industry growing. So, when I don't need a job anymore, I don't need this job anymore.
Okay. Any prediction date for that?
Beyond 2020.
Beyond 20. Okay. Barry?
But we need you, Bernadette, in order to get to mainstream. And normally I only do predictions once a year because that way it's here. But I'm going to be very firm about this. Mainstream is when half the people have it, half the people don't. And I would say that's going to be December 31st, 2021, because that's when the ITC expires. And those people who haven't bought into it are really, on the wrong side of the curve. So 2021, but that's not going to be everywhere in the country. It's going to be where the economics are good. As long as electric rates are really cheap in Mississippi, they're not going to buy. Sun is really lousy in Alaska, they're not going to buy. So those are people that wouldn't buy it. But I'd say everybody in California, Hawaii, Florida, East Coast has a sunny roof. Half of those people have solar by the end.
Just FYI, the sun in Alaska is more than Germany.
Yeah. And the incentives are not.
So my prediction and definition is also quite nebulous. So I'm going to ask. But I think it will be at a point where I personally know the majority of my friends that have gone solar. The majority of my friends have not gone solar. I know out of got 300 Facebook friends. No,
Where were your friends?
were your friends? That's,
I know, you'll get better friends.
but it's a very low percentage. So like as Barry said, when like most of them have gone, or like when we're approaching the middle of them that have gone solar, that'll tell me like, yeah, it's already there. And my date for that, I'm going to be wide ranging, and I'm going to say 2020. It's going to take till 2025. That's my date. And from that, you have crossed the chasm with this panel, and we thank you for coming. And now we have a huge party, so please stay. And we got to set up for it. Thank you all for coming. We recorded this. We'll be on the Solar Marketing Think Tank blog. And thank you again for coming and being part of Impress's Solar Crossing the Chasm. That's it. Cheers.